Hello students, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe Matiktok PH. Thank you so much. And with that, our quarter 4 week 2 objectives. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to 1. Define and explain the different sampling techniques. 2. Differentiate the different methods in collecting data. And last one, apply the sampling techniques and methods to collect statistical data. So ito yung kailangan nyo matutunan or ma-master this week. With that, let's define or we have to recall first what is the difference between population and sample. Pag sinabi natin population, ito po yung entirety of the group including all the members that forms a set of data. Ibig sabihin ito yung kabuuan kung saan nire-representa niya lahat ng mga members doon sa ating pinapag-aralan doon sa study natin. And when we say naman yung sample, this is simply a part of population that could represent the characteristics of the whole population. So ibig sabihin, sample is simply a fewer members from the population being selected. Sila yung mga nagre-represent na to come up with our study. And with that, paano ba tayo kumukuha ng sample doon sa ating population? We have the different techniques. So when we say sampling techniques, in statistics, the sampling method or sampling technique is the process of studying the population by gathering information and analyzing those data. So kung mapapansin natin, bakit ba kailangan natin ng sample? Kung mapapansin natin, kailangan natin ng sample kasi na sila yung magre-represent doon sa kabuuan, yun yung population. So, bakit kailangan kong kumuha pa ng sample? Okay, so we have a lot of consideration, no? So, kung kukuhanin natin yung lahat ng data doon sa population natin, we have a lot of time, di ba? Yung resources natin. So, we cannot provide those consideration or hindi natin ma-address. Kaya kukuha lang tayo ng certain number of sample to represent the characteristics of the entire population. Okay, so with that, meron tayong types of sampling methods. We have the probability and non-probability sampling. So ito yung dalawang uri kung paano ba tayo kumuha ng sampling natin or the sample. So we define first, pag sinabi natin probability sampling, ito po yung technique that utilizes random sampling techniques to create a sample. This group of sampling methods give all members of a population equal chances of being selected. Pag sinabing probability, ito yung lahat ng members doon sa population mo, kasi kukuha ka ng sample, no? So, they have equal chances to be selected. Okay, yun yung way natin. Pag sinabi naman natin non-probability sampling, ito naman yung way or method natin kung saan the samples are collected in a way does not give all units in the population equal chances of being selected. It does not involve random selected at all. So eto mapapansin natin, no? So kung etong probability lahat sila ay may equal chances para mapili or mabunot, dito ay hindi sila lahat mabibigyan ng chance. Kaya ang pagkakaiba nila, give all chance dito sa probability. Dito naman sa non-probability, does not give all chance to be selected. Okay, so first, we are going to discuss first, ano nga ba yung apat na probability sampling? Okay, so meron tayong simple random, cluster, systematic, and stratified. Dito naman sa non-probability sampling, we have the convenience, judgmental, or we call that purposive sampling. We also have the snowball and quota sampling. So first, discuss muna natin yung 4 probability sampling. So we have the simple random sampling. Pag sinabi natin simple random sampling, no, madalas natin ginagamit yan. Or this is also known as fishbowl sampling method. Okay, so di ba ginagawa natin sa fishbowl method, di ba, nagbubunutan. Okay, so ginagawa yan, ililista lang yung pangalan and then randomly selected. Okay, yun yung paraan ng pagpili na. Ibig sabihin yan, lahat ng members or kung sino man ang pangalan na sa fishbowl, lahat sila ay randomized to be selected or lahat sila ay may chance para mapili or mabunot. Another is we call them also as lottery method. Ganito sa lotto, no? So just simply give the name and then mag-choose ka lang doon. So they have equal chances to be selected. And that is when we say simple random sampling, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Your sampling frame should include the whole population. Kailangan pag sinabi natin simple random, no, lahat dapat ng members natin or that is the population, no, nandun lahat yung name nila para they have equally chances to be selected. Okay. So, but now, di ba ginagamit na natin yan sa different application like this, no, sa color name or Wheel of Fortune. Ilalagay mo lang yung name mo dyan sa digitized application na yon. And then, magra-randomize yan. Kung saan hihinto, yun na yung makabubunot nila. Okay, so, and another, we have the systematic sampling. Pag sinabi naman natin systematic sampling, ito yung similar to simple random sampling, but it is usually slightly easier to conduct because every member of the population is listed with a number. But instead of randomly generating numbers, individuals are chosen at regular intervals. When we say intervals, meron po silang pagitan. Okay. So kung mapapansin natin, no, pag sinabing systematic, meron kang organized na binibigyan mo yung mga members doon sa population mo ng mga number nila. Okay, let's say every 2. Okay, kaya nga kung sino yung every 2 number na tao na ma-assign doon, sila yung magiging selected mo to be represent the population. Okay. So like for example, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Every 2 yan. Every second. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng systematic sampling. So meron kang organized na nangyayari. Ina-assign mo siya. Kung gusto mo ng every fifth, pwede rin. Every third, it depends on you. Okay. So, yun yung ibig sabihin. Meron silang same intervals. Ibig sabihin dapat parehas yung pagitan ng bawat makukuha mong participants doon. Kung ang pagitan nila ay 2, kailangan pare-parehas yan 2. Kung gusto mong 5, it depends on you. Okay, another way is stratified sampling. When we say stratified sampling, this is used as to divide the population into subgroups. Ang tawag doon sa grupo na yun, data. Okay, the members of the subgroups have similar characteristics. Ano yung mga kinoconsider natin yung traits or katangian nila? We have the age, gender, grade, location, etc. Okay. And with that, yung similar characteristics na yan, yun yung pagbabasihan natin. And it allows you to draw more precise conclusion by ensuring that every subgroup is properly represented in the sample. Kaya kung mapapansin natin, no, so etong population ko na ito, dinivide ko siya ng 9 strata. Kaya this is strata 1, 2, 3, strata 4, 5, 6, and strata 7, 8, 9, 10. But they have equally proportion. Pag sinabing proportion, no, so bawat isang strata dyan, okay, kukuha ko ng tagdadalawa. Kasi dapat equally proportion yung magiging participant or magre-represent sa bawat grupo na yan. Okay, and that is randomly selected. Okay, so paano ba tayo mag-compute or paano ba i-apply ang stratified sampling? Okay, so take note of dito pag sinabi ng similar, yung mga nakagrupo dyan, meron silang same characteristics. For example, they have the same age, dito naman same sila ng grade, depende dun sa magiging target mo. Okay, so with that, para ma-apply natin yung stratified sampling, dito ngayon papasok ang Sloven's formula. Pag sinabi natin Sloven's formula, ito yung formula to compute the sample size in a study given from the total population and margin of error. Okay, ibig sabihin yan, yung sample natin, di ba, kung dinivide na natin yan into strata, okay, so ibig sabihin, paano ko malalaman yung sample size na yon? So we have the formula. So N is equal to capital letter N divide by 1 plus capital letter N E square. Ano yung ibig sabihin ng letters na yan? Wherein is the sample size. Yun yung small letter n natin. Okay. Yung capital letter N naman, yun yung blue, that is the total population. Yung E naman natin is the margin error. Okay. So, di ba yung sample size natin, sila yung magre-represent for the entire population. Kaya kukuha lang tayo ng sample doon sa population. Yung E naman ito, this is the margin of error, no? Pag sinabing margin of error, yun yung percent. Kung gusto mo ng 5%, usually ginagamit 5%. But the margin of error, ito yung paraan natin kung ilan nga bang percent ang kukunin natin sample dun sa specific na population na kung saan tayo nag-aaral or pinapag-aralan natin. When we say margin of error, there's no ideal situation. Kaya nga ito, mag-aalat ka lang ng margin of error mo. So, depende dun sa situation, dun sa pangangailangan natin. Okay, kaya pwede siyang i-adjust. Okay, so with that example natin, no, what is the sample size given a total population of 3,000 and a margin of error 5%? So dito, nag-assign lang ako ng 5% kasi yun ang pangangailangan ko doon sa aking study to be selected as sample. Okay, so with that, apply natin yung formula. So N is equal to capital letter N over 1 plus N E square. Then substitute natin, that is, so since the N here is the total population, that is 3,000. So constant yung 1 dyan, and yung 3,000 plus, 1 plus 3,000, yun yung N natin, sinubstitute din. 0.05, yung 5% na ito, kinonvert natin. From percent, kinonvert natin into decimal. Nag-move lang ako ng 2 decimal places going to left. Kaya nag-add ako ng, naging 0.05 kasi nag-move ako ng 2 places. That is 0.05 square. Okay. So after nyan, you are going to square first the 0.05. So therefore, we have 3,000 divided by 1 plus 3,000 multiplied by 0.0025. Saan nanggaling yung 0025? 0.0025. So dito po sa 0.05 square, ini-square ko siya. Pag sinabi ni square, minultiply mo yung 0.5 sa sarili niya. And then, after that, you can now multiply the 0.0025 to 3,000. And that will become 3,000 over 1 plus 7.5. I-add mo ngayon yung nasa denominator mo. This will become 8.5. Ngayon, i-divide mo ngayon si 3,000 by 8.5. And the quotient is 352.94. So kung babalikan natin yung sample size ang hinahanap natin. Wala namang taong or wala namang respondent na meron tayong representative as 9.94. Di ba? So wala namang taong ganon. So ibig sabihin yan, i-round off natin yan. Okay, take note ha. Sa pag-round off po ng sample size, hindi ka pwedeng mag-round down. Ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng ibaba. Okay, kasi ito yung minimum na sample size natin. Kaya nga, you have to round off this to make it whole number. Kaya nga, round off to the nearest tens. Kaya magiging, ang ating sample size ngayon, this will become 353. Yun yung tao na magre-represent doon sa kabuuan or that is the total population na 3,000. Yan na yung ating kukunin. Okay, another example. What if the missing is the margin of error? Okay, so number 2 example, no? What is the margin of error if the total sample is 400 from the population of 9,000? Okay, so dito naman, so galing pa rin sa formula natin sa Sloven's formula, dinerive lang natin. Kaya ang formula natin to find the margin of error or E, we have the square root of capital letter N, yung N dyan is the total population, over N, yung small letter, yun yung sample size, minus 1 over capital letter N, yun yung population natin. So with that, you're going to substitute kasi given na yung total population natin, which is 9,000, yung 400, yun yung sample size natin. Okay, so this is constant yung minus 1 dyan, then you are going to divide first, 9,000 divided by 400, i-minus mo sa 1 yon. And then, that will become 21.5. over 9,000. Step by step tayo, no, para masundan nyo. And then, from this, you can now divide. 21 divided by 5, 21 divided by, 21.5 divided by 9,000, and that will become 0.0238. Okay, this is repeated decimal. Kaya may bar symbol siya. And from this, you are going to get the square root. Kaya ang square root ni 0.238, that is 0.048876. Ito nga yung square root natin. But the question is, pag sinabi natin margin of error, so ang dapat na sagot natin dyan ay naka-percent form. So ibig sabihin, i-convert natin to, i-move natin yung decimal into two decimal. Two going to right. Okay, kaya 1, 2. Kaya ang magiging margin natin of error is 4.89%. Ni-round off na natin siya. Nag-move lang ako ng 1, 2. Kaya nga 4.89%. Okay. So, another example natin. A researcher wants to determine the sample size of students for his study given with a total of population of 5,000 and a margin error of 6.93%. Use stratified sampling to determine the number of students to be selected from each grade level. Kung ma-analyze natin, no, hahanapin natin dito yung sample size dun sa total population ng 5,000. So kung saan nag-assign na lang tayo or nag-alat na lang tayo ng margin of error. Kasi nga 'di ba, pwede natin i-assign to or i-alat kasi nga pwede natin i-adjust yung pangangailangan natin do sa sample na gusto natin sa ating pag-aaral or study. So kaya 6.93%. Ibig sabihin yan, kukuha ako ng sample size dito sa 5,000. Paano natin malalaman? I-apply natin yung Sloven's formula. Okay. So first, the solution, write the formula. We have n is equal to n over 1 plus n e square. Yung n natin dyan, yung capital letter, yun yung total population. Yun yung 5,000. Yung e naman natin dyan, yun yung margin of error. Yun yung 6.93%. Take note of this, ha. Pwede natin tong i-convert. Kasi nga yung e dyan, i-convert natin sa decimal para ma-substitute natin. And that will become 5,000 over 1 plus 5,000 multiplied by 0.0693. Okay, etong 0.693 na to galing doon sa 6.93%. Minove ko yung decimal niya 2 going to left. Kaya 1, 2. Okay, kaya siya naging 0.693. And then, you can now get the square. Square muna natin itong 0.0693. Okay. Ibig sabihin, multiply mo sa sarili niya. And then, that will become 5,000 divided by 1 plus 5,000. Multiply natin sa, yung 5,000 do sa 0.004802. Okay. Kapag minultiply mo yan, that will become 24.01. So, copy mo lang muna yung 1 dyan para at least masundan natin yung step-by-step procedure or solution. And then, i-add mo ngayon yung denominator mo, 24.01 plus 1, 25.01 na yon. Ngayon, i-divide mo si 5,000 doon sa 25.01. Kaya ang magiging sample size natin is 199.92. Okay, balikan natin, di ba? Ang sample size, ito yung mga sample natin, di ba? Tao yan, responding natin. Wala namang 0.92. Kaya nga, you are going to round off. Hindi pwedeng ibaba, no? Hindi pwedeng i-round down. Kasi nga, that is the minimum. Kaya, i-round up natin yan, magiging, ang sample size natin dyan is 200 persons. Yun yung magre-represent ngayon doon sa kabuuan na 5,000 population. Yun yung kukunin natin. And then, pwede mo na siyang magamit yung sample size to determine the sampling, to determine the number of students to be selected sa bawat grade level na to, from grade 7 to grade 10. Okay, so since we already know the sample size, yun yung 200, no? Okay, kailangan na nating hanapin muna yung percent ng bawat grade level. Paano natin aalamin? Just simply, i-divide lang natin yung 2,000 doon sa grade 7. Ito i-divide lang natin by grade level to the total population. Okay, kaya that is 2,000 divided by 5,000 and that is 40 or 0.4. Dito naman, 1,500 divided by 5,000 and that is 0.30 or 3. Dito naman sa grade 9, 1,000 divided by 5,000, that is 0.20. Dito naman sa grade 10, we have the 500 divided by 5,000, that is 0.10 or 0.1. And kapag inad ko yan, 100%. Yan. So, paano natin malalaman yung masiselect natin sa bawat grade level na yan gamit yung kanilang percent. So, with that, we are going to get the number of students. Yun yung, imumultiply lang natin yung percent doon sa sample size na gusto natin. Yun yung 200. Kaya nga, 0.40 multiply by 200, that is 80. Ibig sabihin sa grade 7, kukuha lang ako ng 80 na magre-represent doon sa grade 7. Ayan. Kasi di ba ito is strata. Nagrupo sila by 4 strata or group yon. And dito naman sa grade 8, 0.30 multiply mo sa 200, that is 60. Dito naman sa grade 9, 0.20 multiply sa 200, that is 40. And for the grade 10, 0.10 multiply sa 200, that is 20. Kapag inad ko to, yung 80 plus 60 plus 40 plus 20, kailangan magtali sila. Ibig sabihin, parehas sila dun sa sample size natin na nakuha kanina. Ginamitan natin ng Sloven's formula, no? And that is equal to 200. Kasi nga, ito yung sample size natin na magre-represent. Tandaan lang natin na pag sinabi natin sample size, ito yung kukunin lang natin na para i-represent yung characteristics or traits doon sa population natin. Yun yung 5,000 na kabuuan ng grade level students. I mean sa students, no? And that is 200. So ganun po ang paraan para i-apply or paano mag-compute sa strata. Doon sa stratified sampling techniques. Okay, so with that, we also have another techniques for probability pa rin to, cluster sampling. Kapag sinabi naman natin sa cluster sampling, ito ay ina-apply kapag sobrang laki na ng population natin. Okay, by the way, yung stratified sampling, ginagamit siya kapag malaki na yung population. Pero kapag mas malaki, you can apply the cluster sampling. Okay, so ano yung kaibahan ni cluster sampling? Pag sinabi natin cluster sampling, it involves dividing the population into subgroups. Same lang siya doon sa strata, no? Or doon sa stratified. Okay, meron silang grupo, but the members of the subgroups of the different characteristics dito sa cluster sampling ay hindi pare-parehas. Take note of that. Hindi pare-parehas yung edad nila. Ibig sabihin, sa bawat grupo na yan, okay, iba-iba sila ng age, iba-iba sila ng grade, or location, or area, demographic, kung ano man yung nila, characteristics. And with that, instead of sampling individuals from each subgroup, you randomly selected entire groups. Okay, for example, di ba sa city, so sa city ay meron dyang District 1, District 2, District 4, and so on. Ibig sabihin niya, kukuha ka lang dyan ng cluster. Okay, ibig sabihin niyan, hindi ka kukuha na hindi ka magra-randomize. Ibig sabihin niyan, kukuha ka based doon sa goal natin. That represent a sample. For example, ay cluster 4, cluster 2, and cluster 5. Yun yung kukunin ko lang. Hindi ako kukuha sa bawat cluster. Take note of that, Kukuha ko doon sa based sa entire subgroups. And ano yung consideration natin when we apply the cluster sampling, no? Yung mga geographic area natin, yung mga consideration natin, yung time, yung halimbawa gahol na tayo sa oras, no? You have to choose na lang yung cluster na mapapadali ka, hindi ka mahihirapan as a researcher. Yun yung kailangan natin. And that is cluster method or cluster sampling. And we also have the non-probability sampling naman. So, eto naman, meron din tayong 4 na uri. We have the convenience, quota sampling, purposive, or judgmental snowball sampling. So, eto yung sampling kung saan hindi sila lahat ay may chance para mapili. Okay. So, meaning to say, the first one is convenience sampling. Kapag convenience, no, So that is simply includes the individuals who happen to be most accessible to the researcher. Ibig sabihin nito, kung saan ka mas mapadaling makakuha ng iyong respondent as a sample mo. Okay. So, yun yung ano natin dyan. And also known as accidental opportunity or grab sampling. O di ba halimbawa na lang, gusto mo mag-interview ng alas 7 ng umaga. Siyempre, yun yung convenience natin yan, i-apply natin. Kung sino yung madatnan mo sa oras na yun, sila na ang magiging interview or i-interviewin mo kasi sila yung nandun sa oras na yon. Halimbawa sa may na-aksidente, no? Siyempre, sino yung kukunin mong sample? Yun yung mga nandoon sa oras na yon kasi mas magiging valid yung magiging data natin yan. So, yun yung ibig sabihin ng convenience sampling. Okay, another one is purposive sampling. Pag sinabi natin purposive sampling naman, so ito yung type of sampling also known as judgmental sampling. The samples are chosen based on the goals of the study. They may be chosen based on their knowledge of the study being conducted. Ibig sabihin nito, meron tayong criteria dito sa pagpilo. Meron kang goals. Di ba yung study natin? Ibig sabihin yan, halimbawa na lang, no, may study ka na, gusto mo kumuha ng data doon sa behavior ng students. Siyempre, so ang goals natin dyan, makakuha ng maraming or range of preferences. Yun yung data natin. Siyempre, ang tatanungin natin dyan, yung mga naging teachers niya, yung mga nanay niya, yun yung judgmental or purposive sampling. Okay, para mas mapadali mo or palawak natin yan. Okay, so snowball sampling naman. Pag sinabi natin snowball sampling, so eto yung, bakit kaya siya tinawag na snowball, no? Kung mapapansin natin, di ba yung snow, eto yung image niya, no? From one person, kung mapapansin natin, habang bumababa siya, dumadami. Yun yung concept ng snowball, no? Okay. Ibig sabihin, meron dito nagre-recruit. Yun yung first natin, nasa taas. And if the population is hard to access, i-apply natin dyan yung snowball sampling. Can be used to recruit participants via other participants. The number of people you have access to snowballs as you get in contact with more people. Okay. Ginagamit ang snowball kapag yung mga confidential, yung mga nagiging study natin. Okay. For example, yung mga gusto mong malaman kung sino yung mga battered wife or may mga nagda-drugs, syempre, kukuha ka lang ng target mo na isang tao dyan na kung saan siya na yung magre-recruit. Okay, para makakuha ka ng data. Syempre, so bawat ano yan, pag ginawa mo yung tao na yan, di ba ito, syempre ito, kung may kakilala siya, i-recruit naman yan. Kaya lang yung nangyayari dyan, very silent lang. Kaya nga, very confidential lang na nangyayari. Syempre, kukontakin ka dyan. Okay. Pero ang tanong dyan, no, paano natin mapapagana or mamomotivate yung mga kukunin nating magre-recruit? Siyempre may prizes dyan. Kadalasan yan yung mga reward. Okay. So usually ginagamit yan, no? Ina-apply na ngayon yung kilala nating networking, di ba? So, and that is snowball. Meron naman tayong tinatawag na quota sampling. Pag sinabi natin quota sampling, is as method of non-probability sampling when the samples are selected based on the probability proportionate to the distribution of a variable in the population. Take note of that, no? Kumbaga, ito yung same pa rin, no? So, pag sinabing quota, this is simply proportion yung kukunin natin dyan. Ibig sabihin yan, they have ito yung pampuno. Ibig sabihin nito, ito yung pampuno lang natin doon sa data natin. Okay, pero kailangan yung kukunin natin yung characteristics, yun yung naka-base pa rin po tayo doon sa ating pangangailangan. And that is how the quota sampling. For example, ito yung age. Okay, di ba? Magkakanda ka ng survey. Meron dyang quota age. Yun yung limit nila. Okay, like for example, between 7 to 9 years old, yun mga respondent natin. At kukuha ka doon na magre-represent doon sa sample or the group. Okay, and that is quota sampling. Now we are going to identify which type of sampling is used, whether simple random, systematic, stratified cluster. convenience purposive snowball or quota sampling. Number one, a biologist surveyed the students in a school by selecting one from each of the 15 classes to answer the survey questions. So, ito ay stratified sampling. Di ba? Pag sinabi natin stratified, so meron dito selected. Okay, di ba? The word selecting one from each 15 classes. Di ba? Ibig sabihin kung may 15 classes ka, so may proportion dyan, di ba? Ibig sabihin yan, mayroon magre-represent sa bawat strata. Yun yung group nila. Okay, number two, the game show organized writes the name of each contestant on a separate card, shuffles the card, and draw 5 names. So this is simple random. Okay, di ba? Ito yung meron silang lahat na chance para mabunot. Okay, kasi randomized ang ginawang pagbunot doon sa 5 pangalan. Number three, the family planning polls 1,000 men and 1,000 women in a certain city about their views concerning the use and how it affects 21st century Filipino families. That is cluster sampling. Okay, di ba? Kapag malaki na yung population mo, you're going to cluster. At pipili ka lang doon sa population na yon kung ano yung na-cluster mo para i-represent yung buong city. Okay. Do sa family nila, no? And that is cluster sampling or sample. Number four, a hospital researcher went to see 10th dialect patients in the nearest hospital in her area for an interview. This is convenience, di ba? Pag sinabing convenience, kung saan ka mas mapapadali, makukuha mo agad yung sample mo, yung data. So, ibig sabihin nito, di ba, the patients in the nearest, the word nearest, no, yun yung convenience muna. Next, number five, Smart selects every 100 cell phone from the assembly line and conduct the throughout test of quality. Ibig sabihin nito, that is systematic. Meron kang inassign, di ba? May inassign kang number. Kaya, every 100 cellphone, pag binilang ko every 100, sila yung kukunin mo as being represent to your sample or part of the sample. Okay. Next, we have number six. A researcher is researching experiences of homeless in your city. Since there is no list of all homeless people in the city, you meet one person who agrees to participate in the research, and she puts you in contact with other homeless people that she knows in the area. Di ba? Ito yung tinatawag nating snowball sample. Di ba? Pag sinabi ng snowball, ito yung kukuha ka lang ng isang taong magre-recruit doon sa iba pa. Kaya that is snowball. Next, number seven, a researcher wants to know more about the opinions and experiences of disabled students at your school, so you purposely select a number of students with a different support needs in order to gather a wide range of data on their experience with the student services. Diba? So kung ikaw magre-research, diba, i-apply mo dito yung purposive sample. Kasi nga, para mas madali mo makuha or mas mapalawak yung iyong gustong i-collect na data, yun yung purposive sampling. Okay, next, number eight, a cigarette company wants to find out age group prefers what brand of cigarette in a particular city. He or she applies quotas on the age group between 21 to 30, 31 to 40, 41 to 50, and 51 plus. From this situation or from this information, the researcher gauges the smoking trend among the population of the city. So kung eto mapapansin natin, no, meron dyang quota. Kinot niya, that is already quota sample. Okay. Kasi nakukuha lang siya doon sa magre-represent kung saan doon sa naka-group na mayroon silang age limit. Next, number nine, the math teacher could choose the first student in a row, the second student in the second row, the third student in the third row, and so on. So kung mapapansin natin yan, ito ay systematic sample. Kasi na, inassign mo sila. And therefore, kukuha ka lang ng isa sa bawat row. Kaya nga, that is a first student, the first row. Ganun din, so on and so forth. Next, number Then, a teacher wants to determine the socioeconomic status of the students in her school. She divided the population into three groups: high income, average income, and low income. She then selected the members of the sample proportionally from each group. Okay, di ba? So, meron ditong tinatawag na grupo. Okay, kung mapapansin natin dyan, sa bawat grupo, magse-select ako ng bawat magre-represent dyan. And that is called the sample. So, ibig sabihin niyan, bawat strata, meron akong kukunin para i-represent na yon. Kaya nga that is a proportional, no? We call that stratified sample. Okay, next. So, sa statistics, we have to know the data, no? Pag sinabi natin data collection is the process of acquiring information from different sources about the topic under research. The function is performed by the researcher himself or his her team. Okay. So there are two classification of data, no? Pag sinabi natin primary data, ito yung original data natin. Secondary data, this is simply nakalipas na yung data natin dyan. Okay. So what is the difference between it? So pag sinabing primary data, implies the data gathered by the researcher or his or her team directly from the source of origin for a definite purpose. Okay. So sa secondary data naman, data refers to the data used in research, kumbaga naggamit na siya by the investigator which originally gathered by some other person or organizing for some other purpose. So kumbaga ito yung magiging reference natin, no? Kaya nga secondary data siya. Okay, ano-ano nga ba yung mga primary data resource natin or source? Okay, we have the survey, questionnaire, experimentation or experiment, direct interview, observation, and we also have the telephonic interview. Okay, under sila na interview. Okay, so with that, pag sinabi natin primary data, so etong titignan natin, no, paano ba makakakuha ng data dito? So this is interview. Pag sinabi interview, this method is referred to as the direct method of gathering data because this requires a face-to-face interview or inquiry with the respondent. So kung mapapansin natin, kailangan pag nagtatanong tayo, be authentic. Titignan mo sa mata. Kaya nga makikita mo kung sincere doon sa pagbigay ng information. Malalaman mo yan. And with that, no, so yung interview pwede natin gawin sa online yan. Okay, but you have to see that naka-open yung kanyang camera para makita mo pa rin kung authentic dun sa mga answer niya. So therefore, you can collect data. Next, so dito naman sa primary data source natin, we call this questionnaire or this is a survey, no? This method referred to as the indirect. Pag sinabing indirect, ibibigay mo lang yung questionnaire na yan, fill up na ng tao. Okay, yun yung sample mo. Okay, of gathering data because this makes use of written questions to be answered by the respondent. Pwedeng balikan mo na lang siya or pwede natin gamitin na yan sa online no, sa Google Form, kung anong platform man yan. So, ibibigay mo na lang yung link. Okay, kaya nga siya indirect source of data. Okay. Next, we also have this is observation. Kung mapapansin natin, this method makes use of different human senses. Kaya inoobserbahan natin yan to gather information. The person who gather data is called investigator or pwede siyang researcher. While the person being observed is called the subject. Okay, pag tinanong ka, di ba, kung meron kang study, sino yung mga subject mo? Okay, depende dun sa sa magiging respondent mo. Okay, so with that, the observation, ginagawa natin yan no, kapag nasa klase tayo, inobserbahan mo yung mga ugali, yung pagkikilos, paano nga ba gumalaw ang isang tao. And then you can get the information. Okay, using your senses. And we also have this. So ito naman ay registration or we call this census. This method requires the enactment of law to take effect because it needs the participation of large if not the entire population. So ito yung ina-apply natin kapag malaki na yung population natin or yung sample natin na kukuhanin natin na data. So pwede tayong mag-house to house dyan, yun yung ina-apply yung census dyan. Kukuhanan ka ng data mo, yung mga personal information. Kaya nga yung NSO, no, or that is your birth certificate. Okay, kapag pinanganak ang baby, nire-register yan. Kaya nga, meron tayong tinatawag na census. No? Census serve as the backbone of the statistical analysis data natin. Kaya doon lahat kailangan makikita doon na kapag pinanganak or minsan no, na wala na yung tao, so kailangan meron siyang death certificate pa rin no, para makita natin yung number of statistics natin siya. Kaya that is a registration. And with that, so, meron tayong tinatawag na experimentation. This method is usually conducted in the laboratories where specimens are subjected to some aspects of control to find out cause or the effect. I mean, the effect of the relationship. Ibig sabihin nito, dito sa experimentation na ito, so the physicists and the chemists make use of the experimentation method in gathering data. Questions like the following involve experimentation. Okay, di ba? Will a fertilizer, example na, will a fertilizer produce more rice? Can or is it possible to produce paper from the manure of cows? Yun yung kailangan nila experiment. Kaya therefore, kapag nangyari yun, may source of data na natin. Okay. So with that, so meron din naman tayong tinatawag na secondary data source. Pag sinabi natin secondary data source, no, so pwede siyang government publication, newspaper, website, books, journals, or the records. Yun yung mga reference na natin na ginagawa ngayon. But most important is, mas maganda yung primary data natin. Kasi direct doon. I mean, except yung ano doon yung indirect. Yun yung ano. Okay, that is survey. Okay, with that, I hope you learned something new. But before that, identify the most appropriate methods of collecting data to be used in of each of the following research topic. No, okay. So number one, the changes in the behavior of the student. So anong method kaya para makolek ko yung data na yan? Siyempre, the word behavior, paano mo makukuha yung data dyan? That is observation. Obserbahan mo yung pag-uugali niya kung may pagbabago ba. Next, number two, the number of children in a household in a particular barangay. Siyempre, that is registration or census. Kaya nga nag-house to house yung mga barangay no officials no para makuha yung census or yun yung data natin para malaman nila kung ilan yung nakatira doon sa barangay na yun. Okay, next, number three, the reaction of some residents of the fire accident that happened in the area. Siyempre, paano makukuha yung data or yung paano makukuha yung gusto mong data doon sa area na yon. So, you are going to interview. Diba? So, paano malalaman yung reaction nila? Diba? Either nagulat sila, kung ano man yung feeling nila dyan. So, tatanungin mo sila. Next, number four, monkeys and other animals used in laboratories to test the safety of new COVID-19 case vaccine. So this is experimentation, di ba? So meron diyang experiment na ginagawa dyan sa laboratories. Okay, to be effective. Okay, next, number five. Favorite sports of the grade 7 students in your school. O, di ba paano malalaman yung favorite nila? Anong method kaya i-apply mo dyan para makolek yung data? You have to apply the questionnaire or yung survey. Okay, pwede mo siyang ibigyan ng Google form na lang or pwede mo siyang bigyan ng questionnaire. So, isa-send niya na lang sa'yo. Pwede naman yun. And that's one way to collect a data. So with that, I hope you learned something from this video and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.